So I have titled it as Exploring Some Insights of Dadabhagawan on the Real and the Relative. Transition from Krama Vignan to Akrama Vignan, the spontaneous knowledge, what I would understand as the Akrama Vignan, as the spontaneous knowledge that one should aspire for, to conceive the intricate nature of reality and the interrelation between God, Word and Soul, seems to me the axis around which Dadabhagawan's thoughts revolve around. Krama Vignan is a term he uses to refer to disciplined approach to reality. You undergo various types of disciplines, and in a systematic way you try to reach up to reality. The term seems also, this Krama Vignan is a term that he uses to refer to various things. The term seems handy for him to refer to the analytic approach to nature adopted by contemporary physical science, a destructive way of understanding reality, to use his own phrase. Krama Vignan, according to Bhagavan, consists of findings of the intellect. He says the use of the intellect takes you to disaster, where the subject takes up active agentship. You think, I am the one who thinks and I am the one who conceives the cause-effect relation which brings about various changes and happenings in the world. While in Akrama Vignan, the agent is a non-performer. The findings of the intellect to him is divisive and partial, while Akrama Vignan gives a holistic understanding of reality. The characteristics of Akrama Vignan matches to my mind, more with that of the Sthita Prajna Lakshana, the characteristics of Sthita Prajna, beautifully related by Lord Krishna in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Particularly, it is very, very striking that since he refers to Vitaraga, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Sthitadhi Muniruchyade, as Lord Krishna describes the status of Sthita Prajna to the innocent question that comes from Arjuna. Sthitadhi kim prabhasheda, kimaseda, kim rajeda kim. Does he sit? Does he walk like us? To this, then Lord Krishna comes out with series of characteristics of Sthita Prajna, and most of the characteristics of Jnani that Dadabhagawan speaks about finally matches with the characteristics of Sthita Prajna to my mind, particularly Vitaraga and Aparigraha. Though to me this term Aparigraha seems to have been borrowed from Jainism. Extending further on the characteristics of Jnani, he describes him as one whose thought, word and deed are well coordinated. You would have heard even earlier speakers did make a mention about this necessary coordination that we need to have between a thought, word and a deed. Many contemporary thinkers have explicated this as the tapas of our times. Today we don't have forest, nor do we have disposition to undergo penance like our ancestors. But then the tapas that we need to have in Kali Yuga, it has been said, is to achieve this coordination between the thought, word and deed. Here I am reminded of Jiddu Krishnamurti, who says that violence, you see that there is violence in the external world. Actually, the violence arises in ourselves first. And how does the violence arises in ourselves? When you do not have this coordination between the thought, word and the deed. You are doxas, you have a doxastic system, a belief system. And when you do violence to that, when you believe something and you speak something else and act in a very different order, you are doing violence to yourself. And it is this violence that arises in the individual gets spread in the society. And precisely Dadabhagawan also speaks about this. He says that there are 3 causes for dukkha or sorrow, and they are Adhi, Vyadhi and Upadhi. Adhi arises, the anxiety arises out of our belief that we will be able to fix things as we desire. And Vyadhi, of course, is the disease. The whole thing, Adhi, Vyadhi and Upadhi are arising out of our understanding that we can fix the things in the world, and our intellect is able to encompass the world as it is. Even from a global perspective, holistic approach seems to be the need of the hour. It is not only from India. Of course, there are various modes of thinking today available in the name of holistic approach to reality. But from a global perspective also, we have contemporary phenomenologists like Merleau-Ponty, who gives a critique of modern science for borrowing the Cartesian dictum of body as a machine, which is dichotomous to the psyche. As you all know, Descartes make a division between the body, the psyche and the somatic functions as being distinct. He, I am referring to Merleau-Ponty, rightly points out the need of replacing it with the notion of a lived body. A body is a lived body in which, and please remember that in our Ayurvedic system, we always consider a lived body for treatment, in which there is an integration of psychosomatic exercises. Dadabhagawan goes one step ahead of Merleau-Ponty and calls to integrate the spiritual along with the psyche and the physical. While the West stops with the mental, our ancient philosophers as well as the contemporary thinkers bravely march ahead to encompass the spiritual as well. In this presentation, I also wish to suggest that this order, I am referring to the holistic center, may take serious attempts to unearth the hitherto unexplored elements of scientific temper in classical Indian thought. Friends, please understand that our youngsters do not have a good regard for classical Indian thought precisely for this reason that they are under the impression that it is filled with speculative thinking. On the contrary, we have had scientific elements inbuilt in our classical Indian thought, which I do not have time to go to the details of it, which very well matches with the holistic conception which Dadabhagawan says, and I presume that I was trying to tell Shailesh ji that we could organize a seminar along these lines encompassing the holistic approach wherein the classical Indian thinking conceives the science and the metaphysical as one indivisible unity. As Tagore has famously said that we do not believe in nuclear families. Our theories exist in joint families where there is no division between grammar and mathematics and language and natural or physical sciences. Underlying the relativity of physical laws that rules over the nature, he underscores how the physical is influenced by the thinking subject. This is very impressive. He speaks about the relativity of the physical laws, and I don't want to waste time talking about the quantum wherein the relativity of physical laws has been brought about even by the contemporary physics that rules over the nature, and he underscores how the physical has been influenced by the thinking subject, how we determine the nature of the world as it is. His axiomatic position seems to be this: there is an interplay between the real and the relative. The thinking subject is part and parcel of the absolute real, holding an active position in determining the course of events that happen in the world. I quote, this cosmic mechanism functions according to the adjustment among the different phases of your feelings and nature. Therefore, don't disturb the functioning of the nature. If you desire that let there not be a rain because you are going out for a trip, well, that would trouble the dreams of a farmer who is craving for the rain. I'm just quoting, employing the very same analogy he has used. You will surely get everything in natural course, for nature makes no mistakes. He reasserts the non-local nature of consciousness, which is very, very interesting for those who are working in the area of consciousness, by devising Yojin Chakra. We are familiar with the 6 chakras that the yoga, Patanjala Yoga Sutra speaks about. Then he speaks about another, a 7th chakra called Yojin Chakra, which stands above our head, which links the subjective consciousness with the universal consciousness. This is he says it's being placed above our head, connecting the individual consciousness with the absolute consciousness. Here, I am reminded of the Madhuvidya. Just recently, a few hours ago, I heard a paper on Madhuvidya also of Brihadaranya Upanishad, wherein it has been beautifully brought out how everything in the nature is interdependent. And Dadabhagawan underscores this interdependence of the relative world and the real world. The world is not a passive material entity. On the contrary, it is pervaded by universal consciousness with which humans can establish a link if he wishes. So in brief, Dadabhagawan seems to my mind one thinker who reinterprets the Vedantic tradition with this revision of giving due role to the phenomenal world in the ontic system. Such daring reinterpretations of the ancient Vedantic wisdom deem necessary to keep the tradition alive. Mere iteration and repetition of what has been said in the classical text, though it is very, very relevant, is insufficient to keep the tradition alive. To bring dynamism to tradition, such innovative philosophizing, contextualizing the ancient wisdom alone would serve the purpose, a function academic philosophers immersed in hailing or critiquing. Either we hail a particular text or a philosopher, or we criticize a particular philosopher. And we are immersed in such activity that we are shy of coming up with such innovative thinking. While keeping ourselves busy in building walls between systems, we dare not mix up Vedanta with Jainism. We are making category mistake. Because we are intended in building walls between systems, we have forgotten that we are also alienating philosophy from the life of the common man, because the common man wants to see how pragmatically it is meaningful in his life. A synthetic unity of Shramanic thought with Vedanta is yet another innovation. He has been juxtaposed to Jainism, and he has brought in the right mindfulness from the Shramanic thinking. Not that we philosophers are unaware of it, but then we are worried about making the category mistakes. We, the academics, dare not bring in Shramanic philosophy into Vedanta, though we are very well aware that it is a type of a philosophy which has successfully tied up the transcendental wisdom at the empirical world. And we are also aware that the basic insights of both Vedanta and the Shramanic, particularly that of Buddhism, are not very different. We fear mixing of the systems. We could take up such innovative ideas as our guiding lights, and I wish that academic philosophers, this is one appeal that the academic philosophers who are assembled here may initiate studies in, do research in systematizing Dadabhagawan's thought. Unless you systematize whatever has been discussed here, it will not survive. In order to survive Dadabhagawan's philosophy, it has to be systematized, something which is essential to bring it to the academic world. My appeal to the order is to permit the academics to critically view it. One thing that this particular order should take note of is permit Dadabhagawan's philosophy to be critically reviewed. As I have said in the morning, a philosopher would be tributed if he is permitted to be criticized, which alone would fetch peer sanction, something essential for it to gain a place in academia. Thank you.